This much improved third generation Ford Ranger pickup is far more efficient, as well as being smarter and very media savvy. Plus, it's still tough and decent to drive for a vehicle of this kind. The idea is to tempt everyone from builders to surfboarding, mountain biking families with what is now a very complete product indeed.
Think of a pickup and Ford is a name you just can't ignore. The company represented in this growing segment since the turn of the century by this tough, versatile Ranger model. And here's the much improved, facelifted third generation version. Now, Japanese makers may have conquered the European pickup market in modern times, but the Blue Oval brand has a heritage in this segment going back far further than that, with light truck sales that have run into their millions stateside. Even the company's very first Model T back in the early 1900s could be bought in small truck form, with a closed cab and a flat deck out back. In those days, as well as in more recent times, vehicles like these could happily be as rough as they were tough. But no longer. Today's pickup must be almost all things to all people. A hardcore business tour by day and family transport by night. A load lugger and a leisure SUV all rolled into one, with car-like road manners and affordable running costs. It's a brief that some modern contenders in this segment still struggle with, but one Ford claimed to have got closer to meeting than ever before when they launched the original version of this third-generation Ranger model early in 2012, before improving it in late 2015 to create the vehicle we're looking at here. The result is, the company claims, the most complete pickup it has ever made. It needs to be. Ford hasn't always found it easy to create a pickup specifically tailored to the needs of European customers, and has been trying since 1999, when we first saw the earliest version of this model. The Mark II variant of 2006 was better, that was facelifted in 2009, but that model still couldn't properly compete with the tough Japanese triumvirate that rule this market segment this side of the Atlantic. Mitsubishi's L200, Toyota's Hilux and Nissan's Navara. In recent times, all three have been relaunched in new generation guises. Plus, there are fresh entrants in this segment from Fiat and Renault, with other brands also poised to enter the fray. Add in the challenge posed by a substantially revised version of Volkswagen's Amarok, and it's easy to see why Ford has needed to do more than merely give this Mark III Ranger a quick wash and brush up. Hence the way that this facelifted model's smarter look is accompanied by extra safety features, a more car-like cabin, cutting-edge media connectivity and fuel efficiency improvements of up to 17%. As before, this vehicle claims to be a little more car-like to drive than its closest rivals, and it remains a design versatile enough for export to over 180 countries. It'll be perfect, Ford says, not only for core pickup customers like farmers and plumbers and jobbing builders, but also for the self-employed private people increasingly wanting a vehicle like this as a lifestyle accessory. Are they right? Let's put it to the test. There aren't many pickups developed with on-tarmac driving dynamics as a priority, but this is one of them. The leaf-sprung rear suspension that all vehicles of this kind must currently have for the really heavy payloads many of their owners will need is never going to produce an especially car-like driving experience, whatever those glossy brochures might tell you. But Ford's engineers have done their darndest to replicate that as far as they could, testing prototypes over more than 1 million kilometres in order to deliver a vehicle that provides an impressive compromise of virtues. Around the world, you'll find Ranger pickups happily ploughing through the harsh conditions of the Australian outback or being driven for hours in an endless Argentinian pampa. Yet, at the same time, this is a vehicle that will also be quite comfortable to use on high-speed German autobahns or merely for collecting your dry cleaning. The original version of this Mark III Ranger was class-leading in the way it achieved that kind of on- and off-road compromise. In more recent times, though, Nissan's rival NP300 Navara model has been able to improve on the standard set thanks to the installation of a more sophisticated multi-link suspension system, also shared with rival Renault and Mercedes pickup models. Compare this Ford to other key segment rivals, though, contenders like Toyota's Hilux, Mitsubishi's L200 and Isuzu's D-Max, and you'll still find it much less truck-like to drive. The installation on this facelifted model of a freshly developed electrically assisted power steering system further helps here and makes you more confident almost wherever the road takes you, even if you're threading through town traffic, a place where the relatively tight turning circle, 11.8 metres on a two-wheel drive model and 12.4 metres on 4x4 variants, will come in useful. Only when you're trying to park does the Ranger feel in any way unwieldy. Supermarket spaces simply aren't designed for any vehicle nearly 5.5 metres in length. Under the bonnet, as before, there's a choice of two main diesel engines, a 2.2-litre TDCi 4-cylinder unit or the 3.2-litre TDCi 5-cylinder power plant we're trying here. Both have been upgraded to meet the Euro 6 emission standard, which in the case of the 2.2-litre model has meant that the previous 125 and 150 PS outputs have been respectively raised to 130 and 160 PS. The vast majority of Ranger buyers choose that 160 PS variant, and it's a torquey unit with 385 Nm of pulling power on offer, enough in the four-wheel drive version to tow a brake trailer of up to 3.5 tonnes, and that's a figure that's still unbettered in this segment. For really effortless towing, though, you'll need the flagship Ranger engine, that 3.2-litre 5-cylinder diesel offering a 200 PS output that in this class only Volkswagen's Amarok can improve on. This Ford unit comes with 470 Nm of torque, most of which you can access from as low in the rev range as 1750 RPM, creating a power plant that's proved strong enough in Australian tests to easily pull a 160-tonne steam locomotive out of its shed. Whatever you choose to tow, you'll be able to do it safely thanks to a clever trailer sway control system that automatically detects when a trailer is beginning to snake and unobtrusively brings things back under control. Less impressive is engine refinement. I mean, it's not too bad in the 4-cylinder model, but in this 5-cylinder variant, heavy acceleration is accompanied by the kind of rumbling from beneath the bonnet that more modern rival designers have learned to better control. Now, that's one of the things that you'll notice if you come to this vehicle more used to driving a large SUV. If that's the case, then you're going to need to make a few allowances when it comes to ride and handling. You certainly feel road imperfections that something like Discovery, for example, would easily iron out. And of course, especially if you don't have a heavy load in the back. This high-set 2-tonne vehicle delivers plenty more body roll than the SUV set will be used to. Transmission choice with both the two more powerful models is between a surprisingly slick 6-speed manual gearbox or the 6-speed automatic that we opted for here. And that's a unit that's clever enough to adapt its change patterns to the terrain and to your driving style. Now, if you're a typical Ranger owner, you'll want to be putting this Ford's all-terrain capability to the test on a pretty regular basis, which is why, although there is a two-wheel drive entry-level model for those that want it, virtually all of the range is built around four-wheel drive variants like this one. And as usual with vehicles of this type, this one runs in two-wheel drive unless you rotate this little rotary controller down by the gear stick with its 4H 4x4 high setting, and that's something that can be done on the move. That'll be fine for slippery tarmac and grassy fields, but for anything more serious than that, you'll want to switch further into the 4L 4x4 low range mode. That'll give you a seriously go-anywhere set of off-road ratios. Thus equipped, you can really start to make full use of what is a very confident mud plugger indeed, thanks to the way that key components like the fuel tank have been tucked out of harm's way, facilitating a decent ground clearance of 229mm. This enables approach and departure angles of up to 28 degrees on slopes that you'll be assisted up with a hill start assist system and helped down with hill descent control. There's also an unladen tilt angle of up to 35 degrees. degrees. Now, I'm not going to put that particular stat to the test here, but if I was going to, then I want a Ranger fitted with the optional off-road pack, which includes extra underbody protection for the engine, the transfer case and the fuel tank, plus an electronic locking rear differential that'll ease you through the really sticky stuff. Axle articulation is excellent. Sideways slopes of up to 25 degrees can be traversed, and water waded through at a depth of up to 800 millimetres. Plus, there's a TCS traction control system that's clever enough to reduce the level of engine torque to the exact amount that can be delivered to the ground through the Goodyear Wrangler tyres, prioritising wheels with the most traction and automatically braking any that start to spin. Almost the only major global market in which you won't find the Ranger is that of the US. Apparently, it's not big enough. Seems pretty large to us, nearly 5.5 metres long, and with a bulk quite intimidating enough to frighten away fast-lane dawdlers. The updated exterior design of this improved third-generation model aims to further enhance the imposing presence with a tough but trendier look. Inevitably, that's most noticeable here at the front, where a more muscular bonnet flows into a large trapezoidal grille. This features a kind of more imposing look that you get with Ford's US market pickups, the F-150 model being a good example. And it's flanked by restyled projector headlamps that make this truck more instantly recognisable. Move to the side and the changes made to this updated design are less obvious. Australian stylist Craig Metros has kept it as square as any pickup should be, but he's sculpted the shape for a more modern and aerodynamic look, hence this raked back windscreen. This side grille ahead of the front door is a nice touch, while there's a lower crease line between the wheels to give the flanks some shape. Limited spec models like this one get these chromed tubular sports bars behind the cab, although you can delete those if they create a look that's, well, a little bit too much chrome on the range for you. At the rear, things are also much as before. The size of this cargo bed dependent on which of the body styles you select. There are three: a two-seater regular cab, a so-called super cab with occasional rear seats, and the four-door double cab that we have here. That's the version that most end up buying. Time to take a seat at the wheel. Now you climb up high to perch behind the wheel of any pickup, and this Ranger is no exception, with an airy, commanding cab offering great all-round visibility and class-leading front seat headroom. It's here that the design best delivers on its car-like claims. Build quality from the South African factory seemingly very good, and with technology and switchgear recognisable from across the most advanced members of Ford's passenger car range. As for what's different with this revised third-generation Ranger, well, the funky G-Shock watch-inspired dashboard used in the original version of this model has had to make way for a more conventional centre console. And that's mainly because of the need to incorporate the 8-inch Sync 3 colour touchscreen that's fitted as standard to plusher variants like this one, there to play its part in reducing button clutter and giving the cabin a cleaner, smarter feel. The Sync 3 package offers faster activation, larger buttons, easier app integration, and most importantly, functionality that allows you to duplicate the operation of your smartphone onto the central fascia screen via either Apple CarPlay or the MirrorLink Android Auto system. Not so good is the way that this touchscreen attracts reflections and easily collects unwanted fingerprints. If you're not familiar with the Sync system, it doesn't take long to adjust to it, with the central dash monitor divided into 4 colour-coded sectors that allow you to activate audio, phone, climate control, and where fitted, sat-nav functions via touchscreen buttons. Heating and ventilation is also covered off by switchgear below the screen, which is just as well, since the display buttons can be a little bit fiddly to use. So instead of stabbing away at those, it's better to try and master the system's impressive voice-activated functionality that allows you to issue simple one-shot commands like Play Song to play a track from a CD, Where Am I to find out where you are, or even I'm Hungry to bring up a list of local restaurants from the system's built-in Michelin guide. Directions can then be activated from the split-screen navigation display. Anything this monitor can't tell you will be covered off by the revised instrument binnacle display, the other key change made to this improved Mark III model. Here, a central speedo is flanked by digital colour displays on either side, with entertainment and phone functions on the left and driving functions on the right. For us, the right-hand side of the display is a touch overloaded, providing safety graphics, fuel economy readouts, and everything from a virtual rev counter to a digital speedometer. As for cabin quality, well, it's true that not all of the plastics are high grade and soft to the touch, but Ford says, with some justification, that this is mainly because the materials need to be far more durable in a utility vehicle of this kind. In terms of cabin practicalities, you'll find aux-in, SD card and USB points at the bottom of the centre stack, plus there's a tray for coins and pens on top of the dash. The door pockets don't look that big, but they can hold 1.5 litre bottles. The glove box also appears a little restricted in size at first glance, although Ford says it's big enough for a 16-inch laptop. There's also a deep 8.5 litre centre console box between the seats that can take up to 6 cans of drink and is big enough to shut away the smelliest Indian takeaway below an upper tray that's moulded to store a mobile phone and coins. This storage box is air-conditioned on top variants, and these derivatives also feature this overhead console with a sunglasses compartment. So we'll finish this segment by focusing on the space you get in the rear of this double cab variant. Now, it's here that sometimes compromises can be made with vehicles of this sort, with cramped legroom and, worst of all, a ridiculously upright rear backrest that's usually there to give packages in the low bay behind priority over people in the cabin. The design team behind the original version of this third-generation model sought to improve things for rear seat passengers by moving this B-pillar forward. And as a result, the Ranger has, for the last few years, been one of the better double-cab pickups to choose if you want to provide rear seat folk with reasonably good standards of cabin space. You'll notice this when you take a seat inside. Although this vehicle is actually narrower than an ordinary Ford Mondeo and up to 100 millimetres narrower than some of its rivals, it is possible to get 3 adults across this back seat without too much discomfort. 2 6-footers can certainly sit one behind the other with reasonable ease. If there are only 2 of you in the back, then you'll be able to use this central armrest with its built-in dual cup holders. There's also the bonus of being able to flip up the seat base to access 2 hidden storage compartments and create an extra area for transporting smaller items that you don't want to consign to the cargo bay. As with most pickups, the Ranger lineup is really divided into 2 parts. The versions targeted at hardcore industrial use and those that must also fulfill a more leisure-orientated role. Models like this double cab variant, a derivative that's likely to account for the vast majority of sales. Virtually all Ranger models come with standard 4-wheel drive, but you have to have this double cab variant if you want to add in automatic transmission, an £850 option that Ford expects around 30% of buyers to take up. You'll be wanting some idea on overall pricing, which we'll give you excluding VAT, since it's likely that most business buyers will be able to claim that back. Now, for the double cab models, the asking figure starts at around £21,000 for the variant fitted with the 2.2 litre TDCi 160 PS diesel engine that most buyers will prefer. Choose the high-spec limited trim we're trying here. That's what the majority of private and self-employed customers tend to want. And you're looking at an ex-VAT list price of either just above or just below £25,000. In this case, we're testing the top 3.2 litre TDCi 200 PS 5-cylinder diesel unit, which is the engine you have to have if you want the option of the plushest Wild Track trim level. Ex-VAT list pricing for 3.2 litre Ranger models will see you paying in the £25,500 to £28,000 bracket. We're not going to necessarily assume you to be a double cab customer, though. Ford has a small but significant core customer base of industrial users, and these are primarily the people that the brand hopes may be interested in the two other body styles on offer to Ranger buyers. The farmers and builders wanting the basic two-seater regular cab model need to budget in the £17,500 to £19,500 bracket. This is the only body style offering the 2.2-litre TDCi engine in lower powered 130 PS guise, as well as in standard 160 PS form. Go for the alternative Super Cab body style with its useful occasional rear seats, and it's the 160 PS unit only. Super Cab customers do get a bit more choice though, with the option of plusher trim variants that push pricing up a bit, the figures ranging in the £20,000 to £24,000 bracket. With this body style, there's even the option of a two-wheel drive only version for those who don't want to venture from the tarmac. Onto the value proposition those prices represent. Now, Ford's never tried to offer the cheapest option in the pickup segment, but if you look at what you get in terms of equipment and capability, the Ranger appears at first glance to offer a fair amount for your money. As for rivals, well, the segment's cheapest pickup is the SsangYong Korando Sports model, but most users discount that on the basis of performance, build quality and restricted towing capacity. So at the time of this Ford's launch, that left it facing up to 5 really key competitors in the pickup sector: Mitsubishi's L200, Nissan's MP300 Navara, Toyota's Hilux, Isuzu's D-Max and Volkswagen's Amarok. Now, to this quintet, some buyers might also want to consider the more recently announced Fiat Fullback and Renault Alaskan pickup models. But in making our comparisons, we'll stick to consideration of the more established segment players here. Now, before getting into that, it's worth mentioning that not all pickups in this sector can provide the three-way choice of body styles that you get here. Only Toyota, Isuzu and Mitsubishi also offer that, although Nissan MP300 Navara buyers do get the alternative of a King Cab option that's the same as this Ford Super Cab body style. Go for the Volkswagen, the Fiat or the Renault options in this segment though, and it's a double cab body style only. As we said earlier, though, that is what the majority of buyers tend to want. So it's this body shape that we'll focus on for the purposes of our comparisons here. If you're buying simply on upfront asking price, then you'll probably note that Isuzu's D-Max could save you up to £2,000 or more over the cost of a comparable double cab Ranger model, while Mitsubishi's L200 would save you £1,000 or so. Both these two rivals, though, cost more to run and feel clunkier to drive, which will leave many potential customers for this Ford looking instead at comparable versions of the Toyota Hilux, the Nissan MP300 Navara and Volkswagen's Amarok. All these three rivals are directly comparable to this Ranger on price, so to eke out an advantage, Ford has tried to help this vehicle stand out in the showroom when it comes to standard spec. Have they succeeded though? Well, let's see. Entry-level XL badged Ranger variants are pretty basic, but even they include a DAB radio, Bluetooth phone compatibility, a heated windscreen, power heated mirrors and security measures which include a Thatcham Category 1 alarm, a PATS immobiliser and specially shielded door locks. Move up to XLT spec and Ford will throw in quite a lot more. There's a chromed finish for the front grille, the door mirrors and the door handles, plus there are 16-inch alloy wheels, front fog lights, side steps, auto headlamps and wipers and power folding mirrors. Inside, XLT buyers get air conditioning, cruise control, a leather-covered steering wheel, an auto-dimming rear-view mirror and Ford's Sync 1 infotainment system with its colour, multifunction display and voice control. Here we're trying the plush limited spec that many will want, which includes larger 17-inch alloy wheels, rear privacy glass, rear parking sensors and the useful C-channel load tie-down system for the load bay. Plus there's the option of a chrome tubular sports bar if you like that sort of thing. Inside, limited Ranger buyers can expect to find leather upholstery, climate control that also cools the centre storage box, a powered heated driver's seat and Ford's more sophisticated Sync 3 infotainment setup with its larger 8-inch touchscreen. Having Sync 3 means you also get the clever Ford MyKey system. This recognises your favourite driving settings from an individually programmed ignition key and allows you to program a spare key with restricted settings if you're loaning your Ranger out to someone else. Neat. We can't really imagine you'd ever need much more than you get with limited spec, but if you want the ultimate Ranger and you're happy to limit yourself to the 3.2 litre engine and the double cab body style, then Wildtrak trim beckons. This flagship derivative gets 18-inch alloy wheels, a titanium effect front grille, a sports bar and aluminium roof rails to set it apart, while inside there's bespoke trim, satellite navigation, variable colour ambient lighting and a rear view camera. Some of the desirable features that just mentioned are available as options on lesser trim levels, things like the sat-nav and the Sync 3 infotainment system, for example. Others, though, are like leather trim and the useful C-channel load bay fixing system aren't. So do think carefully about what you're going to need before you plump for any given variant. As for options that all Ranger buyers will want to look at, well, as you might have noticed, we've got a few such items fitted here. Most obvious is this tonneau hardcover, the sort of thing a lot of pickup buyers tend to want. This particular Style X design has an ingenious hinge system, but if you don't like that, there are also soft, roller shutter and fixed aluminium tonneau cover options available, on top of which you can mount load bars for clipping on things like cycle carriers. Further Style X load bay options include a bed liner and a choice of hard-top canopies that will transform your pickup into something more resembling a van. Unless you specify this Ford with solid red or white paint colours, you'll have to pay extra for metallic paint too. We've got Panther Black here. Other extras you might want to look at include scuff plates, locking wheel nuts, and for the cabin, a useful 230-volt inverter socket. At this point, I should also mention the optional off-road pack. That's an essential extra if you're going to maximise this Ranger's capability in the rough. With this package, you get an electronic locking rear differential that could be crucial if you find yourself in a really sticky spot. And the pack also includes extra underbody protection for the engine, the transfer case, and the fuel tank. Onto safety, always a strong point with this vehicle. The original version of this third-generation Ranger was the first pickup to gain one of Euro NCAP's coveted 5-star ratings. And the basic fundamentals in this regard remain as strong as ever, thanks to an IPS intelligent protection system that's designed around this Ford's tough steel safety cage. It includes seatbelt pretensioners, a steering column and a pedal box that both collapse on impact to reduce injury, and as you'd expect, a multi-airbag system. Twin front, side and curtain bags are fitted as standard across the range, along with the driver's knee bag. Plus, most models also get ISOFIX child seat mountings and a tyre pressure monitoring system. In addition, as you'd expect, there's all manner of electronic assistance to try and ensure that you never find yourself in an accident situation. So the ABS brakes get emergency brake assist to make them more effective in sharp panic stops. And those are advertised to following motorists by automatically flashing emergency brake lights. There's also TCS, traction control, and an ESC stability control system, built into which are devices to prevent trailer sway and suspension imbalance through poor loading. Plus, for extreme circumstances, there's a rollover mitigation system. On top of that, there's hill start assist to stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions, and hill descent control that, when you're off-road, will gently ease you down slippery slopes. Plus, if you've a plush variant fitted with Ford's clever Sync 3 infotainment system, then you'll get an emergency assistance feature, which will automatically alert the emergency services with your exact location if you're involved in an accident. If you want to go further, then you'll need to pay extra for the optional driver assistance pack that we've been trying here, which includes a whole raft of the latest electronic safety features being used across Ford's passenger car range. This includes 5 key items: collision mitigation, which warns you of an impending collision; adaptive cruise control, which automatically keeps you a safe distance behind the car in front on the highway; auto high beam, which dips your headlights for you at night; traffic sign recognition, which pictures traffic signs as you pass and then displays them for you on the dash; and a lane keeping aid that warns you if you're veering out of your lane on the highway and applies steering torque to ease you back to where you ought to be. To Potential business owners may well be approaching this Ranger thinking that sleeker looks, smarter, more sophisticated cabin and decent driving dynamics are all very well, but that they'd trade all of them for the practicality out back that this vehicle will need to earn its keep. Now, they don't have to. On paper, at least, it looks as if this Ford's load-lugging stats are as good, if not better, as any you'll find with any other pickup in this segment. So let's raise this optional tonneau cover and then pull back this lockable drop-down tailgate and see how that works out in practice. The tailgate is supported by gas-filled struts, and you can deposit weights of up to 200 kilograms onto it as part of the loading process. What you can't do, though, is drop the thing down completely because the combined bumper and step get in the way, as does the optional tow bar if you've had that fitted. As for what's inside here, well, the regular cab and super cab models continue to offer some of the very largest cargo bays in the class, with load boxes that respectively measure in at 1.82 and 1.45 cubic metres. This double cab version is also more than competitive, with a 1.21 cubic metre load box. If you want a few more specifics on that, we're talking a load box depth of 511 millimetres and a load box length that varies from 2,317 mil for the two-seater regular cab model to 1,847 mil for the super cab and 1,549 mil for this double cab variant. All Rangers have a load box width of 1,560 mil, narrowing to 1,139 between the wheel arches. Still easily enough to accommodate the kind of Euro pallet that you shouldn't have too much difficulty in lifting up to floor level, thanks to a reasonable loading height that on this double cab is 835 millimetres. Payload capacities aren't quite as impressive, but you'll still be able to carry a gross figure of up to 1,199 kilos if you choose the right version of this double cab model. Bear in mind, though, that this capacity can fall to only a fraction over the 1 tonne mark on a 3.2 litre version like this one. Yes, that is still above the 1 tonne threshold for claiming back VAT, but it means that careful calculations will need to be carried out before fitting optional extras like tonneau covers and roller shutters. Go for the 2.2 litre only super cab and regular cab body styles, and this is much less of an issue. On a regular cab variant, the gross payload figure can be as much as 1,269 kilograms, while with a super cab model, as much as 1,230 kilograms is possible. As for the weight you can tow, well, choose the right variant and you'll be able to lug along up to 3.5 tonnes. And that's a figure that's matched only by the Isuzu D-Max and the Nissan MP300 Navara in this class. If your Ranger's heavily laden down, you won't want your cargo moving about. So on top models, you'll be glad of the C-channel cargo management tie-down system, which has attachment points that can be moved along a rail, giving you greater choice when you're tying down the load. If you still manage to get that wrong, then you'll be thankful for the adaptive load control system. Now, this automatically adjusts the suspension so that the vehicle rides level should you have poorly positioned your cargo or, very unwisely, have placed all the weight of it in one area. Of course, some stuff is bulky rather than heavy, sheets of plywood or plasterboard, for example. So pockets above the wheel wells and along the sides of the load box allow owners to use timber inserts to carry these things more easily. And running costs, well, these have improved substantially with this facelifted third generation model, and they needed to. For one thing, opposition models have dramatically improved their performances in this regard since this third generation Ranger was first introduced back in 2012. In today's market, it's now not uncommon for a new double cab pickup to be able to return nearly 45 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and under 170 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, if you tell you that the most frugal derivative, the original version of this Mark III model, could only manage 32.8 miles per gallon with 228 grams per kilometre of CO2, you can see just how Ford had to go in this regard when it came to this facelift. They have managed it, though, or at first glance they have anyway. The engineers talk of a massive 17% running cost improvement for the volume 2.2-litre TDCi engine, thanks to the addition of electric power steering and an auto start-stop system that cuts the engine when you don't need it, when you're stuck in traffic or waiting at the lights. And as a result, that four-cylinder variant can potentially return up to 43.5 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and up to 171 grams per kilometre of CO2, which is right up at the standard set by the class-leading Nissan MP300 Navara. We would suggest, though, that you also look at the brochure small print. The figures we've just quoted only apply if you go for a 2.2-litre model fitted with the no-cost option of the so-called Eco-Axle package that gives you an artificially tweaked 3.15 final drive ratio. And that's something you probably won't want to do, given that choosing such a derivative will massively lower your Ranger's brake towing capacity from 3,500 kilos to just 1,800 kilograms. Now, to restore that towing capability on a 2.2-litre model, you'll need a version with a more normal 3.55 final drive ratio. And with such a derivative, the efficiency figures are quite a bit different: 39.8 miles per gallon and 185 grams per kilometre. To be fair, that is still enough to match a comparable Toyota Hilux and improve on the showing you get from an equivalent Isuzu D-Max or Mitsubishi L200. Now, choose your 2.2-litre Ranger with an automatic gearbox, and you have to have the normal 3.55 final drive ratio. And here, the figures are 35.3 miles per gallon and 209 grams per kilometre. There are no final drive ratio pitfalls to negotiate if you're looking at buying the 3.2-litre TDCi 5-cylinder diesel version that we're trying here, a variant which, as you might expect, costs quite a bit more to run than its 2.2-litre stablemate. Still, its figures too have been significantly improved in Euro 6 skies, to the point where they're actually better than the 4-cylinder derivative could achieve in the original version of this third-generation model. To be specific, you're looking at 34 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 218 grams per kilometre of CO2. Figures that fall to 31.7 miles per gallon and 234 grams per kilometre if you choose your 3.2-litre TDCi Ranger with an automatic gearbox. To help owners get somewhere close to these figures on a day-to-day basis, there's smart regenerative charging for the battery, low rolling resistance tyres and a gear shift indicator on the dash, plus a graphic fuel usage display that shows the average fuel consumption and your recent success and frugality. We like the little touches too, like Ford's Easy Fuel refuelling system, which makes it impossible to fill up your diesel Ranger with petrol by mistake. What else? Well, there's the usual 3-year, 60,000-mile warranty, a 12-year anti-perforation package and a year of Ford Assistance breakdown cover. Plus, with Ford having more dealers than any other manufacturer, you'll never be far from a franchised outlet if spares or service appointments are required. And on that subject, an optional Ford Protect Premium plan will also allow you to prepay for servicing for up to 2 or 3 years in advance. As for insurance, well, groupings are rated at 9E for all regular cab models, 10E or 11E for super cab variants, or 11E or 12E for the double cab body style. You can't deny that this improved third-generation Ranger is a thoroughly engineered product, the first Ford pickup to truly approach market leadership. It's safe, it's spacious, clever, able to carry large loads, and finally, it has engines efficient enough to stand comparison with the competition. Whether the need is for active family weekends or simply to carry workmates with their kit and tools, this solid, do almost anything automotive Swiss Army knife seems to have it covered. From the back streets of Bangkok to the logging trails of Liberia, you'll find Rangers earning their keep. But this model's most unique selling points go beyond just sheer ruggedness, tough though this Ford is to break. From a handling perspective, the on-tarmac driving dynamics is still arguably best in the segment, aided by safety and infotainment technology that'll see Japanese competitors having to play catch-up. Mind you, none of that will be of crucial relevance if this vehicle couldn't cut it in terms of load lugging practicality, or lag behind the class standard in terms of efficiency in the way that the pre-facelifted model did. Fortunately, standards are either equalled or surpassed in both these areas too. Of course, this Ford isn't perfect. The refinement of its TDCi engines could certainly be better, and the ride quality delivered by the suspension can't match that provided by the multi-link setup that you'll find in Nissan and Renault rivals. Ultimately, though, there is much to like here. When it all comes down to it, the right tool can make child's play of men's work. And if you're looking for the best all-round contender in the pickup sector right now, then this, for many buyers, is exactly that, the right tool. It all means that pickup users who habitually would simply sign up for another Hilux, another Navara or L200 in this segment really ought in future to consider this Ranger too. That was Ford's objective here. Job done.